Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Welcome to the post-cabinet briefing for September 9th, 2015. Today, the brief will be done by the Honourable Raphael Trotman, Member of Parliament and Minister of Governance. Minister Trotman.
Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thank you for accommodating us with the somewhat late start, but there are a few other competing events, but we thought we should still go ahead and hold the briefing today. I will deal on behalf of Cabinet with just 5 matters. The first is that His Excellency President David Arthur Granger and the entire Cabinet, of course, and government noted the happy conclusion of the general elections held in neighboring Trinidad and Tobago, which resulted in the People's National Movement led by Dr. Kaieteur Rowley emerging victorious at the polls. Cabinet joined with His Excellency David Granger in agreeing to convey heartfelt congratulations to the new Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, and his government. I believe this afternoon he's been sworn in along with his Attorney General. We have expressed in our meeting yesterday great anticipation and expectation for continued excellent relations with the Twin Island Republic, and have taken note of the very short time between the closure of polls and the declaration of results, knowing that the polls were even extended to 7 on Monday evening, and by 11:30 the results of over 1 million registered voters, those results were known. Quite remarkable and exemplary. Second matter I'd like to raise is that His Excellency will be departing Guyana over the weekend to take up an invitation that was extended to him by members of the diaspora to visit Toronto. It is not an official state visit, but as I said, members of the diaspora have been pressing for him to come, and some of you may have seen a brunch has been advertised, and we're told that there's much excitement and many people are intended to visit. So His Excellency leaves on the weekend with the First Lady and I believe 2 other persons to keep that engagement. As usual, on his return, you'll be notified of what transpired, or you may know in advance based on what you read on social media. So His Excellency may not need to actually brief you because you would have read and known everything already before he even gets back. The third is the sending of relief supplies to hurricane-hit Dominica. Recall that 2 weeks ago, Prime Minister did indicate that the government of Guyana, one, had extended its sympathy and sympathy for the 20-odd persons who were confirmed as having died. I believe as of early in the week, 36 or thereabout persons remain unaccounted for. And also, we have extended our offer of support in tangible and not so tangible ways. Guyana has been working with SEDEMA, which is the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, along with our own CDC, to coordinate our effort, because when we looked at the Grenada example where Hurricane Ivan had hit and everybody wanted to do good, but of course some of that good actually exacerbated ongoing issues, it was felt thereafter that the Caribbean effort should be coordinated through SEDEMA, which is the CARICOM body. And to date, our effort includes the shipment of a container of rice. Yesterday afternoon, I say thanks to 2 offers we received from the private sector for two further containers of rice to be shipped as well, and that is being done later this week. And we're in the process of also getting a needs list so that we know exactly what it is that is required immediately and how we can respond. The fourth matter reporting on is that Cabinet approved a zoo-to-zoo exchange program, and we agreed to a proposal submitted by Minister of Governance, as yours truly, for a zoo-to-zoo exchange program between Guyana and the Hyde Park Zoo Sanctuary and Tropical Gardens of Great Britain. This exchange is a result of negotiations between our local National Parks Commission and the Hyde Park Zoo. And under this program, 4 manatees will be loaned and in return, Guyana will receive in a few months 15 animals. We are quite excited about this. 2 peacocks, 2 pairs of ostriches, 1 pair of antelopes, a pair of lion cubs, and 3 zebras, or as we would say in television, zebras. In addition, the Hyde Park Zoo, Sanctuary and Tropical Gardens has committed financial support in the tune of $30 million towards rehabilitation works at the Guyana Zoo. That we hope to put in place in time for our anniversary celebrations next year. Fifthly and lastly, in terms of the report, just a report on some overseas training programs and conferences. Cabinet approved the proposal by the Honourable Minister of State on behalf of the Civil Defence Commission for Guyana's participation in Relief Supply Tracking System training organized by SEDEMA again to be held in Barbados from September 8th to 9th, 2015. This program will be attended by Major Marvin Chichester of the Guyana Defence Force, who is also with CDC, and Assistant Operations and Training Officer with Mr. Sherwin Felicine, Information Technology Officer, will join him. Both persons, as indicated, are from CDC. Cabinet also approved a memorandum submitted by the Minister of Public Infrastructure for Guyana's participation at a seminar on global aviation partnerships on emissions reduction to be held in Montreal, Canada from September 15 to 18, 2015. The seminar will focus on aircrafts, next generation air navigation, green operations, carbon market, renewable energy, to name a few. And the seminar is a high-level forum to provide guidance on policy development, and it is envisaged that Guyana would benefit significantly, in keeping with our commitment to, 1, raise our status as an international airport to Tier 1 level, and given our commitment to embrace a greener environment and economy. Members who will be attending are Mr. Hiralal, who is the Director General acting of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Sahid Suleiman, and Ms. Desir, who is counsel to the Civil Aviation Authority, will attend. Most notably, we also approved for Guyana's female Post Mistress General, Ms. Karen Brown, to participate in the 18th Annual Caribbean Postal Union Conference to be held in Tortola, British Virgin Islands on September 14 to 18. And we note that our postal services are headed by a female, and so even though the title is Postmaster, we felt that we should make the adjustment and celebrate the fact that our postal services are in the capable hands of Ms. Brown, and so we are very happy to have been able to have her participate in this upcoming conference. That concludes the short brief. Thank you. Guyana dollars. It would be something if it was 40 million US for the zoo.
Good morning, Mr. Trotman. Kurt Campbell, News Source. On your first statement, could you say if the President commented on the standing of commitments exchanged between himself and the outgoing Trinidad Prime Minister in keeping with the meeting he held with her just after the May 11 elections?
Well, I think the commitments were not between head of state and head of state, but between country and country. And so even with a change of government, we intend to continue and, in fact, deepen the ongoing arrangements between Guyana and sister CARICOM nation, Trinidad and Tobago. So, yes, at the soonest opportunity, we will refresh and renew that commitment made with the former head of government, Ms. Prasad Besesar.
Adam Harris, Prime News. Sir, you talked about the exchange between the Guyana Zoo and the Hyde Park Zoo. Observation. Are we going to spend money to upgrade our zoo, bearing in mind that people claim that most of the stuff we had inside seemed to have disappeared?
Well, there are all kinds of myths and legends surrounding the operations of the Guyana Zoo. Some people even say that the food that goes in doesn't reach the animals, I don't know, or not all of it. All kinds of things are said, that there are nocturnal activities and creatures that move around. But the idea is that we can restore the park and the botanical gardens to a pristine state, and that come next year to celebrate our 50th anniversary, in keeping with our commitment for a greener environment and economy, we can not just have caged animals, but we can showcase the flora and fauna and the beautiful animals that Guyana boasts. We are working with the World Wildlife Fund, I should add, to enhance the local knowledge of the animals, flowers, plants, and we're currently streamlining a partnership with the WWF on that. President is of the view that the average child, and not even adult, knows beyond perhaps some part of Houston what animals roam or are indigenous to different regions and how we can identify them. And the President has remarked about his own jungle warfare training in Brazil, where part of the training included being able to identify animals, name them, and be able to draw them and so forth. So we're working on raising the profile of our animals so that they can be respected and appreciated and, of course, protected. So the zoo is not just as an exhibit, but it will be seen as a place of learning as well.
Minister Trotman, could you confirm whether Mr. Nagamutu, Prime Minister Nagamutu, is heading a team to negotiate national unity talks with the PPP, and who are the other members of the team?
Well, indeed, the President has commissioned a team to engage with the opposition, PPP Civic. Mr. Nagamutu is the nominal head, but of course the head of state is the head of state, but Mr. Nagamutu does lead the team. The team comprises, and pardon me if please excuse me if I leave anyone out. It includes Vice Presidents Ramjatan, Greenwich, of course Minister of State Harman, Ms. Amna Ali, Mr. Bassett Williams, Attorney General, and yours truly.
Can you say when the first round of talks may be held?
Well, the invitation has been extended to the PPP Civic. The leader of the opposition did meet with His Excellency recently and indicated that he would consult and would indicate when his side would be ready to start those discussions.
So it will not be confined only to national unity, but to other national areas?
Well, there's always a talk about trust, and so His Excellency identified a few areas that we believe that we can start building better relations with or in, and of course that would build trust and lead, of course, to national unity. The coalition, AP and UAFC, is in itself for all intents and purposes a national unity government, and we, of course, will always extend a hand to the PPPC to join and to participate.
So considering the sort of acrimonious relationship the PPP and Mr. Nagamutu has, do you think it was the best idea to put him to lead the team?
Well, there are two schools of thought. You can say that because relations were acrimonious in the past, you should avoid using those persons to talk. And there's another school of thought that says that because relations were acrimonious, better to put them to talk immediately with each other so that you don't leave that and delay it and pretend and skirt around it. And so that you would have made great headway only to find that there's this great elephant in the room, that these 2 or 3 persons don't speak to each other. When you would have made 90% headway, you find that the last 10 yards are the most difficult. So I think His Excellency favored the second school of thought, and that is to have Mr. Nagamutu, who is seen, of course, as a contentious person in the eyes of the opposition, up there and up front, because I think if we are going to have sincere, genuine, long-lasting healing and reconciliation, we have to confront the devils that beset us and lessen the way we demonize each other and deal with each other respectfully, whether we like each other or not. So the answer is yes, I think Mr. Nagamutu is the most appropriate person.
Sir Gilderi, Kaieteur News. Kaieteur National Park, it has been closed. When is it likely to be reopened? My apologies.
I believe a statement would have gone out that it has been reopened as of today.
Well, I'm not sure whether it would have addressed some of the measures for the protection, of the tourists and so on?
Well, actually, yesterday, a high-level meeting was held between ministers of governance with responsibility for natural resources and patrimony. Yours truly, Minister of Tourism. We met with the Commander F Division. We met with President of the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana. We met with the Tourism Authority. We met with National Park Commission and members from the various ministries, Air Services Limited representative, and it was a very healthy discussion that lasted quite a while. We discussed new measures, new protocols for guests visiting. We are still in the process of refining and defining exactly what it is we are going to do, but suffice to say that in the interim, we've gotten the benefit of the Guyana Police Force's views. We've decided to introduce firstly a manifest system so that every passenger who comes has to display identification, be it a passport or national ID. That will comprise a manifest of sorts which will be handed over to the park ranger on arrival. That's one. Another initiative is that we will ensure that there are at least a minimum of 2 guides on the ground, one at, and to use a military analogy, one at point, leading the tour, and one that is at the rear, at the guard, to ensure that if there are stragglers or persons who want to return to the water or to wander off, that there's someone to take care of that. And we're, of course, ensuring that there is a zero tolerance for anyone wanting to enter the water. I was there about 3 weeks ago as part of visiting of the site. The water is very high right now because of the rainy season, and of course the falls are very powerful. So anyone thinking of going in there, I think that should be dissuaded. We looked at the possibility of putting rails. We are to speak to managers of parks in other parts of the world, Costa Rica, Brazil, perhaps Venezuela, and as far away as America and Canada if it's necessary. Zero tolerance for alcohol and a few other measures. But as I said, these are some of the initiatives that were discussed yesterday. The police force has also offered the use of its, the availability of its police officers to provide just backup services, not as guides necessarily, but to be able to be around. And we are going to work out, you know, if some way could be found from the government side to supplement, say, the income of the police officers. If they're available, they are aware of the lay of the land, so to speak, and would be an excellent resource that could be available to us. So the park has reopened as of 6 a.m. this morning. The tourist has not been found. At this point in time, we can't say whether by misadventure, by accident, or by any deliberate action she has gone missing. But we've asked surrounding communities to remain alert and on the lookout. We thank the Ghana Special Forces of the Ghana Defense Force, and of course members of the Ghana Defense Force, the Tourism Association, the airline industry for the outstanding support that was received. But alas, at the end of it, we have not been able to locate her or find any trace, not even a piece of article of clothing or anything of jewelry or anything. And it leaves us to wonder, but we will continue to be on the lookout. So we believe that we are in a position to reopen and to proceed.
Sir, in the discussions between her relatives or family members and the authorities, did they indicate at any time whether she was in any distress, any problems, domestic problems, personal problems?
Not as far as I'm aware. I mean, I've read different accounts in the newspapers as to who she really was. I think one account said that she was a resident of Florida. Another says, I think, which is the more accurate one, that she's a resident of Georgetown, Meadowbrook, I think, to be more precise. Hence the reason why we are insisting on a kind of a manifest that each passenger we must know the name and identification of that person so that we can locate that person, and also contact information for a relative or friend must be filled up on a form when you when you arrive. So in terms of the emotional state of the tourists, we're not aware, and we don't want to get into conjecture or to gossip, but that's a matter that is private between members of our family.
Leroy Adolphus, Capital News. Opposition leader yesterday stated that the social cohesion roundtable discussions and initiatives is a sham, and that the PPP would not join in the roundtable discussions. And he was calling for the swearing in of the members of the Ethnic Relations Commission. Your response first to the opposition leader's claim, and whether or not government is committed to swearing in the members of the ERC.
Well, the first reaction is one of a smile. It's quite amazing that after the event, Leader of the Opposition would say that they're not attending an event that has already passed. He was invited. He said he would not attend, which is most unfortunate. We believe that the roundtable provided just that, a roundtable possibility, an event for differing sides, hostile sometimes to each other, warring sides, if you may even take it that far, to sit and to discuss concerns, fears, and insecurities. The fact that the roundtable was endorsed by local and international institutions such as the Commonwealth, the United Nations, I said speaks a lot for not just Guyana's desire to reach lasting and sustained peace, but also the world wants us to reach to that state. It is unfortunate that one of the first acts as leader of the opposition would be to refrain from participating in something that could lead to cohesion. But that aside, about the ERC, again, it brings a smile because I recall that one of the last acts of the 10th Parliament was actually to name the commissioners. It was a very long and sometimes even painful process to identify the nominees of the new ERC. Mr. John Williams had insisted, had written letters, and as Speaker then I had made sure that the committee was convened, a committee of appointments. Between July, when the last sitting, July 10th of 2014, to November, and then when it was prorogued Parliament, and then February when it was finally dissolved, the Donald Ramatar administration made no step whatsoever to appoint the persons that the Parliament, including members of the PPPC who were part of that committee, had worked to produce that list. So I find it passing strange that for whatever reason then the PPP did not find favor with its own list, because as I said, it participated. All of a sudden now this list is being waved around and you're being dared. We are examining whether or not, and we're hoping not, and some of you may have heard a reference made by me in Parliament to whether the PPP would agree to a process whereby perhaps the 11th Parliament could endorse the list produced by the 10th Parliament. If not, we have to start the process all over again. We are in receipt of legal opinion, a legal opinion which says that we have to restart the process, which is unfortunate because it took months to build consensus around a few nominees that were nationally acceptable, and we would hate to have to restart that process. But because the President in the last administration failed to appoint the members, the question is, can the President in the 11th Parliament go and pick up a list generated by the 10th Parliament and enact it? We are seeking a second opinion, hoping that that can point the way forward. If in fact the Leader of the Opposition would agree to a motion which we intend to bring that says that the 11th Parliament will endorse the list generated by the 10th Parliament, because the truth is same players, just that they've changed sides, then we would proceed.
Quick follow-up. Is the Ministry of Social Cohesion usurping some of the jurisdiction, though, of the Ethnic Relations?
I think you're starting to believe what you hear from Dr. Jagdeo.
I'm just asking the question.
No, impossible. In fact, the ERC remains a constitutional entity. Whether you have an Ethnic Relations Commission or not, it is the duty of a responsible government to seek social cohesion in our society. So the fact that the President has named a ministry and a minister to that portfolio, I think, speaks volumes as to the commitment to do so. And in no way does it supplant or take over or usurp the functions of the ERC. The ERC needs to be appointed very quickly and get busy, and so too the other rights commissions need, of course, to be just as active.
Mr. Herman, could you update us?
Trotman.
Sorry. Could you update us on the code of conduct for ministers and when it's likely to be made public?
Well, I did say indeed that the code of conduct would have been released, and it is finished in draft, and then there was discussion, and where we are now is that it was believed that we should open it up for criticism and critique and for it to be distilled and refined. So later today I am going to release it for public comment. I know there are going to be some harsh criticisms, but hopefully coming out of it will lead to a stronger document. We thought that in the end that it would be better to share it with the public and then finalize it rather than say to the public, this is our final document, because in a sense you'd be legislating for yourself. And in doing so you run the risk of, one, having of course a natural bias to lessen the harshness of such a document, and secondly you run the risk of being accused, even if your intention was not to do so, of doing just that, that is of softening the terms of such a document. So the proposition is that we could release it to the press today, and if the press would help us by posting it in the newspapers and social media, and of course we will monitor the results and the comments, both good and bad, and of course, as I said, take it through a distillation process, and hopefully within a few weeks we can have a document that we can sign on to. In the interim, I should say that members of cabinet have already been working in accordance with what we have, and we are already bound by the document, even though, as I said, it has not been ratified in a public way. But we'll share it later today.
Sir, at this forum, we announced that Mr. Ash Dionorino, GPL, had paid himself $27.8 million. At this forum, there was a report that he had agreed to repay the money. Has he repaid the money?
My last indication or information on that is that to date, the money has not yet been repaid.
And he's out of the country?
Yes. So I heard, found out yesterday.
I know he left on the 3rd of August.
Well, your intelligence is better than ours, apparently. Oh, I see. But maybe you should have made a call. Done this, what is right as a citizen, and you should have made a call.
What will be the next step?
Well, I believe the absence or presence of a person does not prevent an investigation from continuing. Government will, of course, seek the advice of the DPP's chambers and leave the matter there to be dealt with. We're not in the business of going after people. It's an allegation. If the man says that it was not intended to commit an act of theft and he intends to return it, we'll have to see how that goes and call on him to make good on his undertaking to repay. But as I said, the matter will be referred to the DPP's chambers for advice and action if necessary.
But it's not even in the police's hand.
Well, I'm not aware. My understanding was that the police were made aware of it.
Mr. Trotman, could you give us an update on the gold smuggling investigation? What's happening?
Well, we did read, I think it was a Demerara Ways report that was quite sensational one afternoon, that billions in gold were being smuggled out of Guyana. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the timeline given, because it would mean that tons of gold had to be moved within a matter of months. But there is gold smuggling going on in Guyana. We are aware of it. It is a problem that is being addressed. And in fact, a meeting is being convened tomorrow, Thursday, with some agencies and persons concerned to see how we can better streamline our activities. The organized crime unit is leading that investigation. We are working with foreign governments, and we are in the process of tightening so that we can recover as much as possible. Bringing something like smuggling to zero is not always possible, but it is the duty of government to bring it to a minimum.
Visas were revoked?
Well, that question I think should be asked to the American or US, British or Canadian embassies. I'm not aware.
The government may have been informed.
And we're not aware of that.
Without going into all the specifics because of the security nature, could you say how could you tighten up the smuggling of gold out of Guyana given its porous borders, given collusion at various ports of entry and exit?
Well, if I were to answer that publicly, I would be letting the cat out of the bag and defeating the purpose for which the meeting has been called tomorrow. Suffice to say that our actions have led to discoveries, which means that some things are working. So the things that are working, we are going to deepen and strengthen, and those which are not working, we are going to jettison. But it's not in our interest to say what we intend to do exactly. But there was an interesting article in yesterday's newspapers by Mr. Harding saying that it's not the miners who are doing the smuggling, it's others. So there are some known persons and other players, local and international, who are on the radar, and as I said, we are moving to take action.
Alexis Rodney, The Evening News. Minister Trotman, could you say where is government currently with the e-governance project?
Well, as far as I know, that remains under active consideration. I don't believe the government has taken a decision. What pertained in the past has been brought to an end, I can tell you that. But we are awaiting a final report and recommendations as to how we proceed.
Would any cabinet minister attend this evening's swearing ceremony of Dr. Rowley?
No. In fact, that would be in an hour's time. No. No cabinet member is slated to attend, but as I said, the intention is for us to not renew, but to continue our good relations with Trinidad and Tobago. You note that Mr. Rowley is sworn in within 48 hours of being elected, and that means that there's a timeline that says that within hours of the election, the polls being closed, you can get a result and you can move smoothly towards a swearing in. And I think that is what Trinidad is doing, Trinidad and Tobago. But in due course, I have no doubt that a delegation from Guyana will be visiting, and of course receiving a delegation from Trinidad and Tobago to Guyana.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. See you in Parliament in a few minutes. Thank you.